Thank you so much. Normally I would take 5 minutes to thank everyone, so can I please say thank you to everyone in anticipation of the time frame. I would like to pay my respects and acknowledge that we are on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I'd like to just quickly ask us to reflect on the important messages from Auntie Anne this morning. There was a lot of learning in a very short space of time. This is an area ripe for innovation, and it's an area that inside our slow-moving curriculum mark, we are actually making incredible strides. So in this particular space, I'll share with you shortly some of the innovation that's happening in our curriculum standards directorate. But firstly, I would like us to think about the title of today's symposium, and I'm very tempted to borrow my colleague's white marker and go over and write all schools should be first art schools, but I'll refrain. Because when we consider education in New South Wales, in Australia, all schools, therefore all arts, all classrooms are on Aboriginal country. In New South Wales, there are 35 Aboriginal languages. Some people may or may not know that in the room. That's 35 arts practices, 35 economies, 35 governance approaches. There are, in addition to that, over 100 dialects. We're still learning, as educators, a history that was largely denied us in past curriculum iterations and expressions. And so at the moment we're moving toward a more fulsome representation of that information. So each school sits on a first education school, they sit around engravings, they sit on cultural sites. And so in Auntie's story, she was sharing a little bit of that information around the many clans, the many groups. So what I'd like to do in the short space of time I have with you is quickly go to some findings from research that I have conducted myself. And it was a few years ago, but and I know I have some graduates from my course at UTS when I was teaching there. In a sense, poor things, they were the ones who were learning from this new approach that later became a research study. I asked Aboriginal community members, what is the essential knowledge that pre-service visual arts teachers require about Aboriginal Australia? Their responses to me included that all art teachers, and remembering that all art teachers are in all schools, and this applies to many teachers, they need to know whose country they're on. They need to know the local community of the school where they teach. They also need to know, beyond that, other groups. Are you teaching on freshwater country? Are you teaching on saltwater country? And understanding the implications of that. And the many, as I said, 35 and beyond arts practices across New South Wales as one example. They also asked for teachers to know more about protocols. And of course, John, a huge thank you to John. John's beautiful work in terms of decolonising various projects means that Jonathan Jones was able to present a remarkable piece of work in the Botanical Gardens as one of the projects that John has supported. And we're very, very grateful, John, for your incredible support. In a moment, I'd like to unpack that, because with Jonathan's work, not just the actual installation, but if you were to look at the stories that John's projects actually articulate and the wonderful array of videos, of stories, of text, of publications, you will be able to learn. Jonathan has also taught us how to collaborate, how to partner with Aboriginal communities. I think John holds the champion first place of collaboration, but we can all emulate that in our own ways. And Jonathan did that. So, in terms of looking at all schools being art schools, wouldn't it be lovely to be an Aboriginal student in a school where there's a knock at the door Jonathan Jones was wondering if he could borrow some students and ask permission for them to speak language for a remarkable installation, to transform those recordings, that inherent cultural knowledge, with endorsement from the community, most importantly, in collaboration with Gumbaynggirr elders, Gumbaynggirr language speakers, Gumbaynggirr custodians, or Barkindji language speakers, Barkindji elders, Barkindji custodians, elders, community, parents. This is work at its best in New South Wales at the moment in terms of collaboration. I'm sure it's modelled in many, many places. But this is one example of meeting the needs of community. Community are calling for change, and it's rather exciting. In our curriculum at NESA, you'll see, and when I say new, I'm talking about the Stage 6 curriculum in English, Maths, Science, History. We have some new content that's written by Aboriginal teachers who bring their expertise as teachers, but they bring cultural wisdom and knowledge in that role. And so, for example, a colleague of mine was saying the other day, he had a call from a teacher, a head teacher in science, in fact, who witnessed Aboriginal students high-fiving each other in the classroom because they saw themselves in the curriculum. So they're ready for change. The respondents in the research also mentioned that they had hoped that teachers would know their content knowledge. And of course that means at a granular level, arts, visual arts, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, people's engagement in the arts, their practices and so on, but also literacy and numeracy. So as was mentioned earlier, not just focus on the arts, moving outside there. So Aboriginal community want to see in the classroom visual arts teachers understanding how urgent it is for Aboriginal students to be learning, to be being better equipped in literacy and numeracy. Other areas they mentioned was the issue of appropriation, which Auntie mentioned earlier. So increasingly in our curriculum, we're asking teachers in planning for their units of work and teaching to work with your local communities, with New South Wales AECG on the ground. They'll refer you to experts. They may not have the knowledge you're looking for immediately, but it's a forum to get to know your community, your local Aboriginal community, and then move further afield. And trust me, everyone's connected in Aboriginal education, so they'll have someone to answer your questions. Spirituality, the respectful positioning of spirituality for Aboriginal peoples in the arts is very, very important. A number of artists, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists, noted that in their discussions. My cultural mentor mentioned that, for my doctoral work, mentioned that people think for Aboriginal people arts is about pretty pictures. He said it's not about pretty pictures. It's the way we write, it's the way we communicate. And beyond that, it is law in some cases, Lore, Law. It has many, many functions, and it's so important for all of us as educators and professionals to immerse ourselves in that learning, that Aboriginal cultural knowledge, to better equip ourselves to comply. In a sense, I shouldn't say to comply, but certainly to work with the sentiment of those parts of the New South Wales Education Act that require us to respond to the specific needs of Aboriginal students, but also for all students to learn about Aboriginal histories and cultures. Thank you so much.